Give me like a oh blank Suns thing, Chris. It's deserving tonight with the Bright Now Suns, formerly known as the Bright Future Suns, beating the Lakers and going to the second round of the NBA playoffs. Unbelievable. The Mismatch, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook.
We are recording this on late Thursday night. We have just watched the beatdown.
Wow.
As LeBron James and the Lakers are going fishing, as they say, and the Phoenix Suns are moving on. Now, there's a ton to get to regarding this, but it was a knockout punch that was delivered in the first quarter that could never be recovered from. Devin Booker was absolutely positively out of his mind. He comes out in the first quarter of that game. For those that didn't see it, he has 6 threes in that first quarter. Unreal. He has 22 points in that first quarter. He ends up 8 for 9, 6 of 6 from 3. And the Suns have a massive lead right off the bat. Lakers are playing catch up. The rest of the game got it to maybe like 11 or 12 at one point. In the late third, fourth quarter, but it was just too much. And then Booker at the end of the game ends up with 47 points, 11 rebounds. He is the first Suns player to have 40 and 10 in a playoff game since Amari Stoudemire in 2010. Long time ago. And he was just otherworldly. And the Lakers had, it's kind of shocking, honestly, Kev. I don't know how you felt about this game, but you have one team that came out and was shooting the cover off the ball. Crowder's knocking down threes. Obviously, Booker's not missing at all. On the other side, like LeBron was very passive in that first half, and especially that first quarter. He wasn't going to the basket. Like you saw when it was like time to win, it was like, all right, now let me get you out on an island and I'm going to drive to the basket. I'm going to be in control of this game. I'm going to be setting guys up. And I mean, it was too late then. It was too late, right? I mean, I really thought
too late because Devin Booker stomped in their throat. After years of slander, after years of claims he's a good stats, bad team player, Devin Booker on the Suns, he sucks.
Don't put that on me. Don't put that on me. Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Never said you, Chris. Never said you.
But there's
47 points on 22 shots, 15 of 22 from the field. Devin Booker. I mean, I thought, like we talked about this earlier in the series. What could Devin Booker be if he's hitting threes off the dribble? Well, we just saw in game 6 what Devin Booker could be if he's hitting threes off the dribble, and it was pretty sensational. So for this Suns team, a big congratulations to them and their fans who have suffered a lot this past decade. This is a special group. It's a special group, man. Like I think this Suns squad against Denver, we'll see. We'll talk more about next round shortly, but I'm pumped for them, and I can't wait to see what happens. And with this Lakers team tonight, yeah, you're right, Chris. It was kind of odd. LeBron did end up with 26 shots. It's not like he didn't possess the ball a lot throughout the course of the game. And
I think it was 9 in the first half, though, Kev. I think it was 9.
Of course, yeah. And maybe I wonder if part of that was him pacing himself for the end anyway, like regardless of score. Yeah. I wonder if that was part of the strategy. You hear about, I know there's some story or a quote, Michael Jordan talking about pacing himself for 3 quarters and then stomping on the throat in the fourth quarter, feeling it out. I wonder if LeBron was doing that knowing there would come a moment where he'd have to do it every single possession, every single play. It just so happened they were down by 100 points. But this Lakers squad, man, Anthony Davis comes out for 5 minutes, clearly right off the bat was not moving well, did not look like himself, pulled out of the game quickly after 5 minutes. Unfortunate that the Lakers dealt with injuries. You hope for them, you hope for LeBron, you hope for AD that it's a blessing in disguise to get an extended offseason, because this coming year for the NBA might start in mid-October like usual. So it could be another shortened offseason for the teams that get to the finals and to the conference finals. So hopefully for the Lakers, it's a blessing in disguise. But I feel like throughout this postseason, like all year long, we talked about how, the Lakers are going to still get to the playoffs and blow everybody away. The Suns and the Jazz are legit, and they have a real shot here to win the whole thing, or at least get to the NBA Finals. And I look forward to seeing what happens from here moving forward, get some new blood, making postseason runs. It's going to be a good time.
Well, a lot of new blood, Kev, because if you just look back, and it's going to take time for us to, this is about Anthony Davis going out. I mean, let's make no mistake about that, right? I want to take no credit away from the Suns, but I mean, if you just look at the numbers when he played in this series versus when he didn't play in this series, it's a radical difference. They outscored the Suns before the AD injury. They outscored the Suns 358 to 350, and then after the injury, they got outscored by 50 points. They got outscored the rest of the way, 274 to 227.
It was close before.
How
though.
great Anthony.
What did you say? 358
yeah,
to 350?
358 to 350. No. It wasn't like they mashed them.
Yeah,
but
for sure. It would have been
losing
a tight
by 50. But they lost by 50 without him. That's the problem.
I mean, no doubt. The wheels came off without him. And it seemed like, we talked about this, I think, earlier in the week. It seemed to me like the Suns exploited the Lakers defense without AD in ways that teams in the regular season didn't, because you have time to game plan, you have time to watch film, and players have time to learn tendencies and how to attack. So I feel like we saw that in this series with the Suns getting what they wanted against the Lakers defense that was dominant all season long.
Yeah, I think one of the major problems, Kev, beyond the fact that they were easier to prepare for when AD went out, clearly, was they didn't really know what they were. That's what that kind of exposed. There wasn't like, okay, next man up, here's this problem, now here's how we play without him, which was a little strange considering he had been out during the season. But there was nothing they obviously trusted, because by the time we got to game 6 with their life on the line, they're starting Marc Gasol. They're playing Drummond no minutes. They're mixing and matching guys. Like, there wasn't something that they felt solid about. It felt like Vogel's trying to search for something in elimination game. It's like not something like after all this time, it's like that's how important he was when he went out. It was like, all right, now this is how we play when we don't have Anthony Davis. And yet there we are in game 6 with their season on the line, and they've got Morris guarding DeAndre Ayton. They have 3 centers. They have Andre Drummond, they have Marc Gasol, and they have Montrezl Harrell, none of which were on the floor. None of which. Like, this is the season's on the line, and now it's like Markieff Morris that we're playing at center at that point. And so I feel like they were just really reaching even in game 6, and it kind of exposed the fact that there was nothing comfortable to move to without Anthony Davis in the game.
It was overall a depleted team. AD, not himself. KCP missed time. Other guys were banged up. And, I think all those guys you're mentioning, Harrell and Drummond, the benefit for the Lakers having this rotation of bigs by committee is like a bullpen in baseball. You have different arms you can put out there for different situations. And for the Lakers, that only worked if you had Anthony Davis, who was the one who mattered most, your workhorse, because you could pair him with him. You could run AD at the 5 alone, and not having that card to go to. I mean, we saw this last year in the bubble, the Lakers versus the Rockets. People at one point were saying, can Houston beat the Lakers? I think I at one point said maybe they could. This could be a matchup issue. And then they go to AD at the 5 and it's over. They couldn't do that. That was always the card in the playoffs that they could go to in case of emergency. Whenever it was time to do it, time to win, they didn't have that. And I think we saw the dramatic difference there. And I wonder, for the Lakers, what is the lesson to learn here? If you're Frank Vogel on this coaching staff, we talked about they went to Gasol at the 5 too late, in our opinion. I wonder how they feel about that internally, the conversations that they have, and how does the front office feel about the way they'll build this team out moving forward? Because you do need to have give AD support with another 5 over the course of the season when you're facing the Jokic's of the world and the Beads of the world and so on and so forth. You got to have that 5. But I wonder if for the Lakers, depending on the series next time around, you go to 88-5 earlier. Like, what's the point in waiting? You fall down in a series, have to battle back. It just seems like to me that if assuming he's healthy at that point, it's time to go small earlier.
Well, it's always been a thing that he doesn't want to. He would prefer not to. I know. It's what makes them best.
Whole regular season, I get it. Playoffs, time to do it quick. Time to do it right away. To me, that's the lesson.
And the other thing is this. It's like to hear some of the Lakers reporters talk about it, I got the impression that this is one of those deals where when pushed to the brink, they made the decision that they made, which was not playing Andre Drummond even 1 minute in this elimination game. But why, when we kept on wondering why are they doing this? Why? What is he playing for? I got the impression that there was some kind of assurance given to him. That's what the reporters seem to believe, that there was an assurance given to him that,
who cares? This is business.
You come here,
it's
you
about
will.
Winning. But I know. Like, I don't care if there's assurances or promises or whatever. This is business. It's playoff time. Anything that's promised, if you're the coaching staff, like, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter.
No.
You're gonna do what's best for your team.
But those assurances that were about not only playing, but also that he's part of what they want in the future. That's the big thing. I think that's stupid too. Yeah. I think that's goofy too.
And I say who cares, but like Andre Drummond is represented by Excel and Jeff Schwartz, ton of clients, big time clients, and so it is important to maintain that relationship. If you're the Lakers, and Pelinka, as a former agent, I'm sure values those promises quite highly. However, that was ultimately maybe a mistake here. I do know I have had multiple executives tell me this was before Drummond signed. Before Drummond signed, I was told that his camp had fears about him being benched in a postseason setting, which is one of the reasons why you heard noise about teams like the Knicks and the Celtics that didn't necessarily have supreme finals hopes like some of these other squads, the Nets or Lakers, that were in on him, but they could have offered more consistent and more, promised minutes. And suddenly the Lakers come out of nowhere. And then they got him. So logically, I haven't heard anything like some Lakers reporters might, but logically it would make sense that there was a promise there for minutes and a starting job. But with that said, though, I'm tired of talking about the Lakers. I want to talk about the Suns. The Lakers just didn't lose this series. The Suns won this series, Absolutely. Chris. They won it.
And Chris Paul's gotten a tremendous amount of credit, as he should. But, we always go around praising all these GMs about everything. James Jones did this. James Jones pulled this off, and he drafted the right guys. He put together the right roster. He got the right veterans, and he got the right coach too.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yep.
The players win the games, but the job that he did in not a long amount of time, right? And there were not a million assets there. They lost all those years in a row and really didn't have anything to show for it in terms of assets to move on. Like they didn't get anything for Josh Jackson. They didn't get anything for TJ Warren. They didn't get anything for Dragon Bender or Alex Len or typically if you draft high over and over and over again, you could flip it into something, right? Like you could do what Danny Ainge did 100 years ago with Al Jefferson, and somehow you can end up with a KG because you nailed some draft picks. Like they didn't get assets for those, but they had this great player in Booker. They had, and then he went out, and after they had already been good at the end of the year in the bubble last year kind of augmented it. And he had Ricky Rubio and Aaron Baines and a couple of those guys. And then this year, you improved it even more. And you went and got Chris Paul, and you got Jay Crowder, and you got some like real warriors that are built for it. To flank these young guys in Ayton and Booker and Bridges. And that's the other one. The Bridges thing is a robbery. That's a robbery.
Oh, you don't want Zaire Smith?
He's not in the league.
Poor Zaire Smith. I wonder how he's doing after the peanut thing that he had, the peanut allergy.
He was on the Memphis Hustle roster for the G League bubble, and he never played. I don't know if he ever ended up. He wasn't even on the bench or anything.
Great athlete.
Yeah. He was a great athlete.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a big move to enable what's taking place right now.
For sure.
And God, hey, how good would Bridges look on the Sixers?
Oh, perfect, huh? Yeah.
I mean,
imagine Bridges and Thibault together. That'd be crazy. But this is just some fantasy for Sixers fans. And
but
Chris
James
Ryan.
Jones has done a really, really good job. He has.
Yeah, James Jones, outstanding. I mean, this is kind of the centerpiece of the Suns feature that I wrote a couple months ago. James Jones and Monty Williams building this thing out. And helping support this talent around Devin Booker and around DeAndre Ayton. And I think about this Suns team, and I think about Ayton specifically, the sacrifice that a number one pick taking a career low in shots and points and changing who he is and the perception of who he is, somebody who was criticized as a player who did not try, who did not focus, who had lacked awareness, and he's become a player who sets a tone with his hustle and running the floor and his screening and his rim running and his defense and his rebound, like all of it. Like he sets a tone. He's become that player for the Suns. And when I talked to Ayton for the story a couple months back, he credited his teammates like a lot of people do, but I believe it from him, like just the way he talks about it, saying they always push me. They're always on me. Monty Williams said to me that we're always on him. Guys are always on him. I'm always on him. Everybody pushes him. And I think he's Ayton to me is representative of what this team is, because it is a group that sacrifices, that plays for each other, that plays together. And, I saw some tweets tonight, of people saying the NBA can't be happy about, Lakers being out, LeBron being out and all that. And I get it. Like I get not having some of these star players and Steph losing in the play. I get it. But the story of the Phoenix Suns, the story of the Utah Jazz and the Milwaukee Bucks and the Atlanta Hawks and some of these teams that are in there for the first time, some of these teams that have been through it before, to me, like this is awesome. Like I'm so excited to see these teams moving forward.